Welcome to Energy Linguist, a sacred space for awakening souls ready to receive divine transmissions and the raw truth that sets them free. I am Laura Ahern, a spiritual channel and energy translator here to bring through messages from highest guidance to help you hear your inner knowing, reclaim who you are beneath the noise, and live from the truth within. Take a breath. You've found the space where remembering begins. Hello, everyone. This is Laura, the Energy Linguist, and I am so excited to invite you back here today for another episode of Energy Linguist podcast, where we get to decode your energy, heal your patterns, and awaken your path through the receiving and exploration of these divinely channeled transmissions. Thank you so much for being here. I want to tell you today is an extraordinarily special episode because it is the first time that I am bringing a very special guest up for us to explore a lot of these downloads that Divinity has been providing lately. So I am here to introduce and welcome the beautiful Ashley Pearlman. She goes as Pearl. She is a spiritual trainer who specializes in somatic integration using modalities such as yoga, somatic movement, breath work, meditation, and much, much more. So I hope you're as excited as I am to welcome Pearl. Hi, honey.
Thank you so much for having me. I am more than thrilled to be here.
Yay! You're my very, very first guest. And as you know, I adore you beyond measure. So having you here is such a blessing today, especially with what we're about to dive into.
I'm honored.
Yay. What Divinity has been recently channeling, as you very well know, has been a lot of insight around this transition that we're in as a collective from this 3D to this 5D consciousness, where we are expanding into this higher consciousness and this elevated way of existing. And in that, I'm receiving a lot of messages around this necessary harmonization of energies that must occur in order for us to really rise to our highest potentials and anchor these higher vibrations into our waking life. So it really is what looks to be this balance of yin and yang energy, where we can't just lean in to hoping to get into this new world and this new way of living by leaning into the spirit alone. We must first address our material selves, this human vessel that we exist in, that is beautiful, that often goes so discarded. We kind of just blow past it a lot of the time, where we're not even aware of what it's communicating to us, or maybe what it's been holding for some time. And so I would love to talk to you a little bit about your own experience in really, I guess, accessing and anchoring spirit through first touching upon our physical being.
Yeah, I think like my biggest goal in life and in all of the things that I try to teach or convey in my classes and when I work with people is that there needs to be a holistic approach of integration, especially when there is a lot of energetic movement happening. And that could be a lot of energetic movement internally, a lot of energetic movement externally, but taking the time to integrate and slow down and allow the settling to kind of occur is probably the most unappreciated aspect of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, unappreciated. Unappreciated is a good word for that.
Yeah, and often looked over. I kind of like almost attributed a similar aspect of people that kind of skip Shavasana after a yoga class.
The best part of yoga.
Some people love it. They're like, why would you leave? And in a lot of ways, people are doing that in their daily lives of their own yoga off of the mat. So in a similar aspect, needing to emphasize the importance of the integration and what I like to call the integration of a lot of things, because if it's overlooked or bypassed or not settled into the physical, mental, emotional body, then it almost was like it was for nothing. Not to say that no, like all effort is not lost, right? But the benefit that you get from it is much greater when there's a period of nothingness.
Yeah.
And yeah, just that integration that happens afterwards.
I love everything you're sharing is so powerful. What I'm hearing divinity say as you're speaking on this, they're showing me the word avoidance, right? That we live and exist within this society in which we are hyper stimulated, like overstimulated. And we don't need to be this overrun. In fact, a lot of us are maybe unconsciously choosing the stimulation in avoidance of being with what rises in those moments of stillness. I know myself, one of my biggest, most profound experiences happened in Shavasana, and you were probably in the room with me, to be honest. And it was terrifying. What rose within me was, at first it actually felt cathartic. It was just light. I felt expansive. And then suddenly it was like this panic onset. In fact, I share this story in my book, The True Calling. And as I started to have all these different sensations rise, what started to rise within me was a lot of regret and just memories of things that I couldn't undo. And there was this terror that took over in that moment, that I became hyper aware that if I didn't face what was rising, if I didn't somehow learn to love myself, not in spite of it, but because of it, right? Because of what it taught me and who I had become, that I wasn't going to be able to live with myself. And I meant that in a very real way, that I can't live with myself with this level of self rejection and self shame that is rising. And it was the moment in which I discovered, divinity showed me that there was an alternative to this self judgment and condemnation, that there was actually a choice of unconditional love and recognition that everything we've experienced in our lives is actually not just telling us and showing us who we are, but a lot of the times it's telling us who we're not. It's showing us the things that are not resonant with us. It's why we regret them. It's why it causes pain when it comes to our mind. But I think in that stillness, there is such a beautiful opportunity to let that stuff rise, because it's not here to bring that kind of terror. It's actually rising so it can leave. And what I do know about you is that you create this incredibly sacred space, this vessel that just feels safe for people to have that be able to rise and feel safe within that experience to let it go.
Yeah, it can be scary. It can be scary to be in stillness. It can be unnerving. It can be almost sometimes even be described as overstimulating to be without stimulation.
Yeah.
It's just a very short sidetrack for a moment, but there's this new trend happening called raw dogging, in which people are just going on flights and traveling without any headphones or screens or anything, and they're recording themselves doing it. And I love it because it's like that's
Mm,
the daily integration that was a part of
yeah.
regular life
Yes.
for everybody. But now we live in this space and environment in which the bombardment of stimulation is hard to avoid. You have to specifically, intentionally set aside time or label it raw dogging, if you will,
That'll
in
catch your
order,
attention.
yeah, exactly. In order to just experience what should be a part of your life,
Yeah,
regardless.
absolutely. You know what's incredible? What's coming through when you're sharing this? I actually had a similar conversation with my husband yesterday about this. That even generations that came before us, where that silence was more available to them, they are still now engaging in the overstimulation as an act of maybe unconscious avoidance. And what I'm hearing divinity say as you're speaking is fear of facing the emotions that are rising. And I love how you said it can be overstimulating to be in silence, because what divinity is showing me is that it's because that stimulation that's rising, the thing that it actually is. I almost see it's like flailing its arms to grab your attention. It's the thing you can't outrun, right? And so it's looking at you and it does feel overstimulating and overwhelming because what is rising, this is what divinity is showing me right now. What is rising within those experiences is all of the programs, all of the self-judgment, all of the condemnation, all of the ways in which we were taught that if we make one mistake, we're unforgivable,
Yeah,
as if somehow that is what God has ever intended. Some a God that is unconditionally loving would condemn us for learning through experiences, right? We know in our core, in our spiritual truth, that that is not true. And yet, in order to control the masses, right? Whether it was higher ups and you think of kind of the patriarchal religion, or if you think about just parents on like a smaller scale, a lot of the ways in which we were programmed to stay in line was through this idea that if you step 1 foot out of line, you lose love, right? You're not lovable. And we internalize that as we don't even deserve to love ourselves if we've made a mistake in our life.
unfortunately, yeah, that is true for most of us. It's challenging to kind of rewire the brain and kind of come into this understanding that you have so much more control over your mind and how you view yourself than you think. I mean, of course, we've all been programmed in some way, shape, or form by our parents and how we grew up, and everybody's a little different from each other in that way, but there's an abundance of tools and ways of being that are available now that, you know, part of that is this world that has been kind of cultivated in which there's like an abundance of tools, like an almost too many tools.
It's true. It's true. It's actually that we have too many choices. If you've noticed, someone might select a tool that you're referencing to use and then change to another tool before they actually give it an opportunity to work. And that kind of jumping from experience to experience is avoidance, because
Mhm.
typically we try to change it when we're getting uncomfortable,
Yeah.
when the tool that we've used is actually working and we're about to unveil the thing that maybe we are just so terrified to see because we're afraid that maybe we will feel that we can't forgive ourselves or we can't love ourselves through whatever rises.
Yeah, my biggest phrase I love to describe yin yoga as is like just getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's like truly the essence of all growth that happens in life. Like there's rarely growth without discomfort. So if you are on this path of growth in any way, shape, or form, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, there is inherently discomfort. So if you desire growth, you inherently desire discomfort. And the moment that discomfort arises and it's difficult to deal with, that's the other saying in yoga, hey, the pose starts when you want to start to come out of it. It's the little push that you have to go over this little edge in order to kind of make it to the other side of it. And it's almost always not a thing that you want to do.
Yeah. It's it's always not a thing you want to do when that level of discomfort gets high enough.
Agreed. I mean,
Absolutely.
sometimes you're at a point in which you're not comfortable in being in the space in which you've already existed for so long, and
Yeah.
then that discomfort is wanted.
Yeah.
So it, like I say, almost always, and that's if you're really going for it, you're really going for maximum growth. It's like, if you're in the beginning phases of growth in any way, kind of like you're consciously and intentionally setting up to grow in a particular way, a lot of times it can be easier because you're tired and
Yeah.
sick of what has been happening and you're wanting it. You're like, I don't care how uncomfortable it is. Like,
Yeah.
give me
Yeah.
the discomfort because whatever is on the other side of this is better than what's going on here.
Right.
So sometimes it's wanted, sometimes it's not wanted.
Mm.
but it's almost always uncomfortable.
That resonates so strongly with me. In fact, I think it's the moments that led me to you. I do believe that divinity is at play with Pearl and Mai's alignment, and that you and I were inspired to potentially, I say potentially because I'd love your input on this, step out of our own discomfort to choose uncomfortability in order to break free of something that we no longer could stand the level of discomfort we were in. I'm not sure if that's how you describe it, but within my experience, as many of you know, I was widowed at the age of 29, and it was very unexpected. I was actually married in 2012, and 4.5 months after I was married, my husband had a seizure out of the blue, and I called 911. We got him to the hospital, and they ended up diagnosing him with a glioblastoma and giving him a prognosis of 9 months to live. And that journey that awakened us to everything that mattered in life, really. I mean, Josh was my first unexpected spiritual teacher, and he met it with such courage and humor and kindness, and just in ways that led me to who I am today, allowed me to survive his passing. But the passing of him put me in a predicament where it wasn't just the loss, it was everything in life started being extraordinarily layered. I was let go from my job very unexpectedly 6 months after he had passed away. There's all of these different things where it's just loss upon loss upon loss. And I knew within my spiritual core, because Josh started coming through, my innate spiritual gifts were extraordinarily heightened after his passing. And I started to hear spirit convey that this was a setup to move me forward, that this discomfort was actually occurring for me so that I could be set free from a place that I would have eventually just sank into and decayed in. And I'm curious to hear your story, especially because right now on this planet, this is what's happening during this awakening, is that it's not just a matter of, oh, I've dealt with it long enough, I'm good, I can do this. That old world isn't just staying anymore, it is in the decaying. And there are many of us, especially women on this planet right now, who know they are being called into no longer settling for those limits, for those cycles, for that internal dialogue that is so abusive that it keeps them stuck in cycles that they deserve much better than. So I'm curious. We can talk about what that's inspired you and I to both come into co-creation about, but I'm very curious if what kind of led you to the moment where you and I aligned was, if you would describe it as similar, almost like this intolerance of, I will choose any discomfort other than this.
Well, if I kind of go back to everything that kind of brought me to you, it does start with a discomfort of where I was. And I, thank the Lord for baths. Seriously.
I'm so with you. That is my anchoring.
This all started with a bath.
I call them bath time downloads, as you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And this was the original bath time download for me. I literally was in a bathtub and I was in New York and it was not a thought of my own. It was given to me. I was already on board when it came, but it was just like, you're gonna move to California. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like it was always kind of like a pipe dream. And that the pathway was not clear in any way, shape, or form. And it did take me essentially another like year and a half for me to kind of actually do it. But it was like a series of events that kind of was like, okay, well, I need to let this go and I need to, and then like the moment it arrived, it was just like within the next couple of weeks, I was just driving to California. Like it almost was like I didn't have a choice. It was just my body was just taking me somewhere.
Yes, this is my world. Thank you for understanding. Yes, I understand.
So I love when you say unexpected like spiritual teacher, because also the yoga teacher training that we had signed up for, like, I wound up in Temecula and nobody should land there.
Which is
But
exactly where I landed.
But anyway, I wound up landing there because of friend of a friend. And anyway, I woke up one day with a download and being like, you need to sign up for yoga teacher training. Like today's the day, like it's just happening. And I was like, I don't have any money. And like I wound up getting money from my dad, my sweet, sweet dad, just goes towards anything that I want. And mind you, this is not a regular occurrence. Like I don't call him asking for money all of the time. But anyway, shows up and like I literally Googled yoga teacher training in Temecula. I found Erica and like
Yeah.
I didn't know a solitary thing about Erica before I showed up at her door to give her a check for yoga teacher training. Mind you, she wasn't there. Her husband was shirtless and was so confused as to why I was there. Anyway, make a long story short, like I didn't know that that's what I was signing up for. I
Yeah.
just was like, this is just what needs to happen. And it happened. And like the next year and a half of my life just was dedicated to spending as much time with Erica as possible and like going through the 200-hour, the 300-hour, and then another 200-hour training. So I like
Yes.
literally spent every single weekend with Erica for long, long time. And through that process, also meeting you.
Yes, yeah. You and I were called into that same moment, that push of like, this is happening, this training is happening. I also knew nothing about Erica Faith Kalig. And what it was for me was I kept hearing this echo. My language started to shift where I would say to my sister when I would speak to her, I'm on cloud nine. And what was funny was that that was a rarity to feel that way because I was in such grief of the loss of Josh. And I mean, I moved out to California and aligned with you only 9 months after he had passed. And so I just looked it up. I knew I was called to Southern California, and I just was like, I'm going out there because yoga had been really helping me heal from the inside out. It was this very unexpected experience I was having, doing some yoga teacher training on the East Coast. And so I just looked for yoga schools in Southern California, and there was Cloud9 Yoga. And here we were at this divine moment where you and I aligned. And I really do believe that divinity had much more in store than even all of the love and joy you and I have shared over the years, which is actually occurring this upcoming spring in the redwoods of California, where we are going to be co facilitating this sacred passage of feminine rebirth in this redwood womb experience in just this heart of this private redwoods in California.
So good. So exciting. And the like importance of the location and timing and the right people will always show up.
Divinity's magnetizing those who are meant to be there. I sense a lot of women. It's a women's retreat, and I sense a lot of women are already feeling this calling to breaking free of the limits and the patterns, those cycles, that density that is becoming intolerable in their own lives. They are just ready to release for good right now.
Yeah, and it's like we had started the conversation with like being ready to release it and also integrating it afterwards is this super mega important aspect of the practice of any practice, but more specifically spiritual practice, because the space in which you kind of hold for yourself after something like this is the kind of space that you are available to create in your own life afterwards. So
Yeah.
this kind of like inherent, like I am intentionally making this space so that you can receive that same space back to you. It's almost kind of like, you need to give in order to receive
Mm.
kind of thing, but with a full trust that you're going to get it immediately right back. It's almost like an immediate reciprocity. And it's sometimes seems like not a thing that's necessary for you. And it can be one of these things that you're like, well, I'm not ready for it. And like the only thing that's really stopping somebody from experiencing it is literally just a decision. There's never going to be a perfect setup. Was I set up for moving to California? No, I didn't have a
No.
job. I didn't have money.
I didn't either. I had none of those things either. That's what's so
Just
comical
going.
about our stories is that we both had to drive straight across the country with no promise. It was total unknown, no money, no place to live, all of those things, just from this inner pull of this knowing that there was something greater than the way we were currently living. To know that there was this hope and this potential and this purpose to everything we had gone through, and to really discover what that was.
Oh my God, I'm just like clicking something in my brain right now that I didn't really kind of see overall what had happened. So to go back to the bathtub, I was in the bathtub, download came, and I was like, okay, like my next decision was I'm gonna move in with my partner at the time and try to convince him to come with me essentially. So I moved to the other side of the state. And in that year that I was there, I was introduced to yoga. So I didn't realize it at the time, but that whole time was just set up for me to learn that I
Yeah.
needed to be practicing yoga. And I
Yes.
didn't really connect that until just now. I was like, why did I even start practicing yoga? And literally, my partner at the time had a yoga mat. I'm like, what's a yoga mat? And he's like, well, you can sit on it and meditate. I'm like, what's meditation? And then, it just kind of developed from there. But yeah, I appreciate the little insight that I got. Like, obviously, if anybody looked at that, it would seem very obvious, but it didn't really click until just this moment, the
No.
kind of like pathway that occurred.
I agree. You don't realize how divinely orchestrated all little moments are. I mean, even someone who might just stumble across this podcast and hear it, like, yes, we are talking to you. I do not believe in chances at all. Everything is divinely synchronized, and it is up to us to kind of tune out of this attempt to control everything in our lives and just watch what's unfolding for us. Because my exposure to yoga happened the exact same year yours did, because I was trying to mitigate the stress of the diagnosis and eventual death of my husband. And I didn't know it was calling me. And this retreat, I sense, is calling a lot of women. And I have to tell you, just like the move to California for both of us, that just it kind of hit us like this is where we're being called to. The exact same thing happened with this retreat. And you know firsthand because you watched it unravel, where I let you know, oh my God, divinity is calling us to create a retreat. And I'm thinking, who does retreats? And like it was one of those things that certainly was not ignited by Laura in human form. My highest self, yes. Divinity and co-creation, yes. Your highest self and you in co-creation, absolutely. And this knowing that right now on this planet, they are pointing to the redwoods, like they're showing me a map, like a pinpoint on a map on the timeline, the sacred timeline. And what I keep hearing is that miracles are going to happen. And we have everything available for someone to arrive and just be held. All of the food is catered by an incredible catering team where we are just coming, we're receiving, we're experiencing. And it's so much like you just described, Pearl, where it is just this ability to say yes to space for ourselves. And then suddenly our whole life reflects that kind of space and love. We can justify all the reasons why life can't happen for us. But if we would spend just as much energy telling us how we could make it happen, our entire life and what we are experiencing would change. It takes that one moment of faith.
Yeah, it's truly a decision. When I come to this visualization of the redwoods, because it's such a spiritual representation of what kind of needs to happen for integration to happen as well, like especially the redwoods because they're so ginormous. But this rooted nature of like this simultaneously going down and going
Mhm.
up energy
Yes.
of these trees, as well as expanding outwards on the plane that we both exist on. It's not a stagnant posture, so to speak.
Right.
It may seem like not a lot's happening and it may seem very
No.
solid in its form, but it is a continuous expansion of energy and constantly evolving. So the I wanted to call it a bassinet, a
Yeah.
bassinet in which these kind of trees form in the like land around it is one of this almost perfect balance of yin and yang of like there's so much depth and there's so much growth and there's so much stillness.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to ignore the like
it
palpable
is.
energy that is there. You know, alone without a retreat, it's an amazing space to be in, but
Absolutely.
combining it
Absolutely.
with all of the practices is life
Yeah, the
changing.
sacred practices of just having us be able to do the restorative movement, right? Somatic release, the yoga, sound healing, breath work, this introspection, receiving energy healing, all of this like interconnectedness of what you're talking about. We're bringing this beautiful interview full circle of the yin and the yang, where we as beings are innately connected to our higher spiritual self. And that may not serve us much at all in this lifetime if we cannot find a way to anchor that down. And until we stop avoiding and start acknowledging and being with the body we've been given and being with one another, being with the earth, being with one another in a way, just to hold space to say that you're not alone in this journey of the things that feel impossible to you, that other women are walking this and you're being held in this unconditional love and light. It's just an extraordinary opportunity that, quite frankly, may never happen again in this way on the planet because of the specific time and energies that are moving in 2026. And so I'm so grateful to God that you were put in my life, that you have seen me through things that I just can't even, this whole evolution of my own being, and to be a witness of yours, and to now have this opportunity to serve women in such a sacred way in the redwoods. Mind you, these redwoods are 27 acres of private redwood forest that are nestled against the ocean. We are literally a mile off of the ocean. We get to have these Pacific Ocean breezes with this like cosmic energy you just described of the redwoods, that vortex, that vibration. Once you're in it, you will never be the same. And so I want to extend a personal invitation to anybody who is listening to let you know that yes, divinity is calling you. Yes, you're being called to experience something unlike anything else you've ever experienced before in your life, and not just to have a wonderful moment, but to allow it to impact all of the moments that come after for you, because you will be changed from the inside out. Oh, well, Pearl, my love, I'm so grateful for all of your time and wisdom today. I'm excited because I have visions of having you back again. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be with you in person in the Redwoods during this retreat. The retreat is March 17th through the 21st of 2026, and it actually occurs during the spring equinox. It was very intentionally pointed to this space and place in time for this extraordinary level of transformation. And so I want to invite all of you to visit lauraahern.com/retreat to check it out. It is limited to only 22 women. And so it's an application based where we will welcome you in with open arms and hold you during the greatest transformation. So if you're interested, please visit lauraahern.com/retreat. And thank you, Pearl, for being here. You are such a blessing.
Thank you. I'm always honored to speak with you.
Thank you, love. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Energy Linguist Podcast. I cannot wait to be with you again. Namaste. Thank you for being here, for listening with your heart, and for opening to the truth meant just for you. If this transmission resonated, I invite you to visit lauraahern.com for free resources and sacred support to help you accelerate your awakening and walk your path with more power, trust, and grace. Until next time, trust what you feel, honor what you know, and believe in your power to create something greater than you've ever imagined.